false finish occurs when a wrestler hits a finishing move, goes for the cover, and everyone in the arena believes that match is over. However, at the very last moment, their opponent kicks out, which leads to a massive sense of disbelief, not just for the wrestler who thought they won the match, but also for the thousands of fans in attendance. A great false finish can sometimes elevate a good match into a great match, with some of the greatest matches in history utilizing the false finish concept to make their match even better. But which ones were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 of the best false finishes in WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10, Seth Rollins vs Neville on Raw. The match between Seth Rollins and Neville in the summer of 2015 featured one of the greatest false finishes of the modern era. During the closing moments of the WWE title match, Neville would execute his Red Arrow finishing move from the top rope. Everyone in attendance was convinced that Neville was going to actually beat Rollins. However, when Neville hit his finishing move, Rollins got his foot on the rope at the very last moment. Fans were ecstatic and couldn't believe what they had just seen. Neville would then go for the Red Arrow once again, only to miss, and Rollins managed to capitalize, hitting a pedigree to win the match and retain the WWE title. Number 9, Kane vs The Undertaker at WrestleMania 14.
Kane is alive, Undertaker! He's breathing!
Kane and The Undertaker had one of the longest builds ever towards their WrestleMania 14 showdown. Kane had debuted in the summer of '97, and The Undertaker outright refused to fight his brother, but that was until WrestleMania 14. The match itself was a great showcase for Kane, and it managed to add a great first chapter to what would become a legendary feud between the two superstars. But one of the most notable moments in the match involved The Undertaker hitting a tombstone piledriver on Kane. Fans in attendance, as well as JR and King on commentary, were convinced that that was the end of the match. But no, Kane kicked out. This marked the first time that any wrestler had ever kicked out of the tombstone piledriver, and it was a truly history-making moment.
Hold on! Nobody's ever done that!
Somehow, Kane even managed to kick out of a second tombstone piledriver. However, the third and final one was enough to pin Kane for the first time in his WWE career. Number 8, Santana Marella in the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in 2012 featured one of the more unusual chamber matches in history. Now, we say unusual because the competitors in this match kinda looked pretty random, as if you skipped ahead about 5 years in WWE Universe mode. It consisted of world champion Daniel Bryan, Wade Barrett, The Big Show, The Great Khali, Cody Rhodes, and Santana Marella.
Santana Marella is going to the Elimination Chamber! There's no way!
The final two in the match just so happened to be Bryan and Santino, and the two men managed to produce one of the best near falls ever seen in an Elimination Chamber match. Santino would hit the Cobra on Bryan, and Bryan would kick out at literally 2.9. The fans legitimately thought Santino was about to win the world title and was going to WrestleMania as world champion. Number 7, The Rock vs Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. Now, there was a time period in WWE where false finishes were actually extremely rare in matches, but WrestleMania 17 was seen as one of the occasions where superstars were allowed to incorporate false finishes into their match, and the main event of WrestleMania 17 had one for the ages. Number 6, Batista vs Triple H at Vengeance 2005. When WWE announced that Batista would defend his world title against Triple H inside a Hell in a Cell at the 2005 Vengeance pay-per-view, fans were categorically convinced that Triple H was finally going to get a victory over Batista. Triple H had so far lost twice to him, once in the main event of WrestleMania 21 and once at Backlash just a few weeks later. But towards the end of the epic Hell in a Cell match, Triple H would execute a pedigree on Batista, and everyone believed that that would be the end and Triple H had just secured the victory and won the world title. However, Batista would kick out at 2.9.
With that huge pedigree, and when Batista willed himself out, look at this! Somehow! Unbelievable.
Batista would go on to win the match shortly after the false finish, and he would retain the world title. As well as retaining the world title, Batista managed to break Triple H's unbeaten 1v1 record inside the Hell in a Cell, which sat at 4-0 before the match took place. Number 5, AJ Styles vs John Cena at SummerSlam 2016.
Everybody realizes how special this moment is.
All eyes were on WWE's booking of John Cena vs AJ Styles' match at SummerSlam 2016, as the majority of fans felt like AJ needed a huge win on pay-per-view to solidify his status as a main eventer in the promotion. AJ had lost a lot of pay-per-view matches since his debut at the Rumble, including a WrestleMania match with Chris Jericho and 2 pay-per-view matches with Roman Reigns. The match itself between AJ and Cena was acclaimed by many who felt it took AJ to the next level, and many praised Cena for being selfless in the match and putting AJ over clean as a whistle. And the match also featured a false finish, which tricked fans into thinking that AJ wasn't going to actually win. Towards the final part of the match, Cena would execute a top rope attitude adjustment on AJ, and everyone believed it was over. From the fans in attendance to Mauro Ranallo on commentary, but AJ managed to kick out. Cena would sell the kick out amazingly, and he would just sit in the corner in utter disbelief from what had just transpired. AJ would go on to win the match, and many would call the match between the two the best match of the year. Number 4, Shawn Michaels vs The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. A Shawn Michaels vs Taker at WrestleMania 25 is often referred to as the greatest match in WrestleMania history, and one of the reasons that it's so damn good is because of the false finishes in the match. One of the most notable occurred later on in the match as The Undertaker went for the Tombstone Piledriver, but HBK managed to kick out, shocking everyone in attendance and everyone watching at home. The false finish was made even more impactful thanks to the fact The Undertaker looked absolutely stunned from him kicking out. Number 3, Brock Lesnar vs Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19. Now, out of all the false finishes in this list, the false finish towards the end of Brock Lesnar vs Kurt Angle was completely unplanned. And for some context, the original finish of the WrestleMania 19 main event match was supposed to be Lesnar hitting a shooting star press to win it and win the title. However, the move was botched and Lesnar managed to land right on his head. Angle decided to go for a cover to buy the two some time, and luckily Lesnar kicked out. Angle later admitted that he was worried that Lesnar wasn't going to kick out and he was unsure of his physical condition. But luckily Lesnar did, and the two were able to execute a new finish which involved Lesnar hitting an F5 to win the match. Number 2, Hulk Hogan vs The Rock at WrestleMania 18. Hulk Hogan's leg drop finisher was one of the most protected finishes in the history of pro wrestling. When Hogan hit the move, it was almost guaranteed that the match was over. That meant when Hogan hit the leg drop on The Rock during their classic WrestleMania 18 showdown, fans believed it was over. But when The Rock kicked out, it sent the fans into pure hysteria as they couldn't believe what was unfolding. The Rock joined an elite list of wrestlers who had kicked out of Hogan's leg drop. He would be one of the first men in history to do so, with most of Hogan's leg drop kickouts coming during Hogan's time in WCW. And number 1, The Undertaker vs Triple H at WrestleMania 28. The Undertaker vs Triple H's end of an era match at WrestleMania 28 was full of emotion, violence, and some of the best storytelling WWE has ever offered. The match took place inside the Hell in a Cell, and the legendary Shawn Michaels would be the special guest referee, which naturally took the match to the next level. But one of the best false finishes in history occurred during the match itself, as during the final stages, special guest referee HBK would hit a sweet chin music on The Undertaker, and The Undertaker then turned around straight into a pedigree. Fans were convinced that the streak was about to end, but somehow he kicked out, which received one of the largest ovations in WrestleMania history. It was made even better thanks to HBK selling, who looked like he literally had an out-of-body experience. It was truly WWE storytelling at its very best. But there you have it, folks, 10 of the best false finishes in WWE history. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.